He was born in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. He is very fondly called Maulana Abul Kalam Azad ji, and in his honor, on his birthday, we celebrate it as National Education Day. Today, we are indeed very, very fortunate that we have Professor D.P. Patnaik, the founder director of CIIL, who has agreed to talk to us on the topic, the role of language in education. And sir, indeed, we are so very happy that you have agreed to talk to all of us and give us the benefit of listening to you today once again. We are indeed very happy. I request Professor Uma Pappuswamy to introduce Professor Patnaik for the benefit of those who may not know Professor Patnaik. I mean, every one of us know, but then the formality demands that we have to formally introduce, and I request Professor Uma to do that. Thank you. Over to Professor.
Thank you, Professor Venkatesh Murthy. Honorable key speakers, Professor Devi Prasanna Patnaik, Founder Director, Central Institute of Indian Languages, Professor Venkatesh Murthy, Director, Central Institute of Indian Languages, former Director Rajesh Sachdeva, Professor Uma Maheswara Rao, and many other friends, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to everyone. It is indeed both an honor and privilege to be part of this event, the first of its kind in our institute. I am delighted to welcome Professor Patnaik once again and all of you to this virtual gathering to celebrate the National Education Day of our nation, and of course to commemorate the birth anniversary of Sri Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, the first Education Minister of independent India. We are indeed very fortunate to have with us today our founder director, Professor D.P. Patnaik, Padma Shri Awardee, and former additional secretary to the then MHRD Government of India and former chairman of Institute of Odia Studies and Research. Professor Patnaik, who turned 90 years just a few months back during March 2020, just before the COVID outbreak started in our country in peak. He's a legendary figure in linguistics and in the history of the Central Institute of Indian Languages. It is because of him we have CIL in Mysore and not in Bangalore. I have heard several stories about the formation and grounding of CIL in Mysore from him. It's always a great pleasure to see him both face to face and virtually and hear from him. On behalf of our institute and director, and on my personal behalf, I would like to extend a heartfelt warm welcome, and I also would like to introduce you to this August gathering. I believe each and every one of you who have here already know you, but since this lecture is being recorded, I'm sure there will be so many youngsters in future who would like to know about you. Sir, your kind presence here this morning is a source of inspiration for us and a great moral booster to all others listening to you this morning. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to deliver a talk on such a short notice. Yes, we approached him just 2 days before, and he took only 2 seconds to give his acceptance. That's the kind of love he has for the CIL and also for linguistics in particular. It is said that people come to your life either for a reason or for a season or for a lifetime. I believe that Professor Patnaik has come into the life of CIL for its entire lifetime. You will be remembered forever and ever. And all your contributions to the institute and the country on language-related matters are commendable. You have played a key role in shaping our institute and taking it to greater heights of international reputation, right from 1969 till 89 until you retired. Today, we are going to hear his speech virtually, But I'm reminded of what I have heard back in the late 80s. Professor D.P. Patnaik's working style is simply amazing. Due to the administrative workload, he would not have time to physically attend seminars or talks held in the institute. But then suddenly you would hear a question from Professor Patnaik over the microphone fixed in the seminar rooms of the old building of the Central Institute of Indian Languages, which was located in Manasa Gangotri. Yes, the big boss was listening to the talks and multitasking. Such was his commitment to academics. He would participate in almost all talks. Those days we cannot say virtually, but in absentia or whatever you would like to say, and encourage all the paper presenters and colleagues. And he has been always very, very encouraging to all of us. He used to talk to everyone and ask people to contribute something meaningful and significant in language and linguistics. He used to walk into anybody's office or even houses, because I've been told by people, Professor Patnaik walked into my house at 9 p.m. or sometimes 11 p.m. and discuss academic matters and prepare for the next day's events or the upcoming programs or planning of the institute. Even today, he is one of the trendy, easygoing personalities I have come across in my life. As all of you know, he is a complete embodiment of optimism, dedication, and hard work. Many of us have seen him as an able administrator, productive researcher, and lively human being, even at the age of 90. You will never get bored when you sit with him. He will take you into a journey of mother tongue education, to social linguistics, to language planning, and to all other matters related to language. He has several publications to his credit. Some of the ones on language and education are Language, Education and Culture, published in 1991 by the CIL. Another noteworthy publication is Multilingualism and Mother Tongue Education, published in 1981 by Oxford University Press, along with his co-author Ivan Illich. One more interesting work and significant to two countries, that is Great Britain and India, is Multilingualism and Multiculturalism, Britain and India. This was published in 1987 by the University of London Institute of Education. He has lots of publication to his credit. Dear sir, words and time are not enough to talk about you. We know that you have contributed a lot to the shaping of language policy of this country, and your efforts in resolving the Bodo problem is also unforgettable. Like everyone assembled here, I am also waiting to hear your speech impatiently. Once again, on behalf of the director who is going to preside over your talk, I invite you to talk on the significance of language in education, one of your favorite topics. So I hope we are here to listen to you. I also see Professor Subbarao just joined. It's nice to see many of the senior linguists of our country here. Thank you once again. I welcome you and invite you to begin your speech. Professor Patnaik. Hello, Professor Patnaik, we are waiting.
Professor Patnaik, could you hear us?
I think he's not here. Let us.
Uma, can you call him?
I am calling him.
Okay. ಉಮಾಮೇಶ್ವರ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
Yeah, so he just lost the connection. He's trying to reconnect. Somebody is with him. So he'll be with us in 1 or 2 minutes, he said.
Yeah.
So, but it is nice to see many senior linguists here. So, to the director, I would like to introduce you to many of them here. We have Professor K.V. Subbarao.
Namaskar.
We have Professor, is a well-known syntactician of international reputation. And we have Professor Umamasha Rao, another eminent scholar. I mean, all are internationally reputed. I don't have to repeat that. So, Umamasha Rao, where are you? We can't see you.
Yeah, DP Patnaik is there.
Yes.
Rajesh.
Now Professor Rajesh Isdava, of course, director knows him. And then we have so many others also. Oh, we have Usha Devi, so many others. Glad many could join. Yes, Professor Patnaik, we are waiting to hear from you.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please proceed. Please proceed.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you. We can hear you. Please proceed.
So should we begin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please proceed. Yes, sir.
I must begin by following a traditional method of saying Pranam to the Jyeshtha, Pranam to the Shrestha, Pranam to the Kanishtha, and Pranam to the Sabha. My regards to everybody, the seniors, the juniors, and all the members present in this meeting. I must begin by saying, since it is language education, I'll begin by saying a few words about the beginning of the CIL. Because I think that CIL was considered as the apex body in language planning and language implementation of that planning. And there was no language department in the government of India when it was set up. And I had visualized at that time that CIL would be a bridge between the center and the states. It was very important. This one sentence was important because that is how we got our regional language centers. Because the regional language centers were visualized by J.P. Nayak, the language advisor to the government of India, as he said, that our CIL has been visualized as a bridge between the center and the states. We hand over the entire project of the regional centers to the CIL. So that is how it all began. And during the first 20 years, we solved many state problems, like Sindhi problem in Maharashtra, like Urdu problem in Himachal Pradesh, like Bodo problem in Assam, like language problem in Tripura and many other states also. And moreover, we initiated lots of language programs in all states. As a result of which, the director CIL was a member of the CABE, was a member of all the language institutes of India, the Central Institute of Hindi, Central Institute of English, Central Institute of Sanskrit, and also the state institutes like the International Tamil Institute, the International Telugu Institute, like all these, and Karnataka I don't have to mention, because we initiated lots of programs, language programs. So there is no language program anywhere in the country or in the states. So that is how CIL earned a name all over the country, and it continued to get first all information about language was accumulated at the CIL. Then we answered questions in the parliament. If there was any question about languages, it was referred to us, and I usually dictated the reply over telephone. And that is how the CIL developed as an apex body in language planning and implementation, language policy making. Everything was handed over to the CIL, and CIL took the initiative in doing all. Now, instead of going into the history of CIL and its activities, which is a different thing altogether, I am going to talk about the subject language in education. There is no education without language. Language in education can be seen as subject and as medium. There is no subject without medium and no medium without subject. Language is the product of thought, feeling, and imagination. All these, the thoughts, feelings, and imagination, can only be expressed through language. Knowledge can be acquired and accumulated through all the sense organs, but it can be shared only through language. Formation of human society is coterminous with the formation of language. So that is how language is so important for the sustainability of any country, any nation, and of the whole world. Language development is connected with brain development. Brain development begins in the mother's womb. There is a story in the Mahabharata which captures this process. Abhimanyu was in the mother's womb where he heard his father Arjuna narrating the manner of breaking open a particular war formation and entering into it. His mother fell asleep and therefore he could not hear the part narrating how to get out of it. Later, in actual war conditions, he led a group of warriors and entered into the formation but could not find his way out and was killed. When a child is born, the mother is her first teacher and the family and the environment is the first school. This is now forgotten almost. That is why when we are trying to increase the number of school years from 12 to 15, at the first years we are planning to spend, the child should spend in school, we forget its consequences of separating them from the parents. So when the child is born, the mother is the first teacher and the family and the environment is the first school. The child establishes relationship with extended family members and with the animals and objects in the environment by giving each one a name. She is slowly exposed to the diversity and plurality in the immediate environment. As she grows up, she learns that the universe is diverse and plural. I would like to give an example from my own experience. One of my father's sisters, married in a different dialect area, was visiting our house with a woman servant, accompanying her. One day, she said, and I'm telling it in Odia, "Mo guraku gute chanti chabidela," which in my dialect would be "Mo goraku gute pimpuri chanti kamudidela chabidela." In English, an ant bit my leg. None of my brothers, sisters, uncles, and aunties could tell me the meaning of chanti. I asked my mother. My mother said, chanti is a different name for pimpuri. What is a different name? She asked me. She asked me to sit down and then asked me what I drank in the morning and evening. My answer was okoro, milk. Then she asked me how it is called in different parts of our village, in different community groups. And we found out there are 5 names for the word, including words from dialect areas adjacent to our place. So we found out that for milk there are 5 names: Khiro, Dudho, Guros, Nityani, Nalapani. From then on, I looked for different words, different pronunciations, and different spellings for the same or similar words. My inquisitiveness about language grew. So that is how language development takes place. This is my own experience I'm telling you. I was told that the language I spoke was my mother tongue or mother language. When I learned about motherland, my problem began. The language I learned from my mother was the language of the area in which I was born. But as I discovered that different varieties of the same languages are spoken in the same area, my confusion grew. I started learning English from standard 6. When we were told that English is the only language of knowledge and development, questions began to arise about the efficacy of mother language and motherland. The Odia poet had written, "Matrubhumi, Matrubhasa, Ubhaya Janani, Seva Karuthibo Tanka Divasa Rajani." Both mother language and motherland are mothers. Look after them day and night. When my work took me to Mysore, I started reading Kuvempu. He had written, "Bharata Jananiya Tanujate, Jaya Jaya tu Karnataka Mate." You are the daughter of Mother India, glory to Mother Karnataka. By that time, I had learned to think the local, linking the local with the global, and spoke of the Mother Earth. My confusion was confounded. The one, my country India, my state Odisha, and my birthplace Nigeria are all my mothers. All of them multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multilingual, and multicultural. Yet India, with its 3,000 mother languages, 4,000 castes and communities, 4,000 religious faiths and beliefs, 45,000 animal varieties, and 65,000 plant varieties, is recognized as a single linguistic and cultural area by intellectuals of the world. India is a mirror of the world. Odisha similarly is a mirror of multiplicity of India. And each state is also a mirror of the multiplicity of India. Language doesn't convey the exact implication of bhasa or bak as religion doesn't convey the exact meaning of dharma. The boundaries of language in India are fluid. It is difficult to demarcate where one ends and the other begins. Language in education in India, its curriculum and pedagogy must take into account the multidisciplinarity, inter and interdisciplinarity, and transdisciplinarity in order to understand its usage in domains like education, governance, and mass communication. From one perspective, there is no such language as Hindi. 49 varieties put together constitute Hindi. Any attempt to separate them shall destroy the language fiber of the country. Maithili was put in the 8th schedule of the constitution as a separate language. Angika and Bajika, two of its varieties, have started demanding recognition as separate languages. Language policy and planning and language education must take all these factors into consideration. We are products of the colonial system of education. The main objective of this system was to produce a cadre of people who would assist the British in the governance of the empire. Macaulay, who was called upon to write a report on education, identified language as the most important factor. By declaring English as the only language of knowledge and development, he not only attempted to break the backbone of multilingualism and multiculturalism, but succeeded in creating an elite who would undermine their own languages. Gandhi was one of the political leaders who understood this phenomenon. He had said that of all the arms and ammunition in the British arsenal to rule the empire, English is the most potent. But his successor, the first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, adopted the Macaulayan system. We are now suffering the consequences. Literacy has taken a backward step and our democracy is getting constricted. Our educational system should have been declared a multilingual system. We should have developed curriculum to bridge the gap between the mother language and the standard language, between the local language and the regional state language, and between the language of central governance. Instead of borrowing foreign methods and materials, we should have developed our own. We should have emphasized an experiential learning. Let me tell you one thing. When in the CIL, we started the centers, we had also initiated the establishment of regional language textbook preparation units in each state and allotted 1 crore of rupees to each state for this purpose. Unfortunately, two things happened. One thing was that our intellectuals are, although they say that our constitution provides that we should move away from English, but they were reluctant to write books in their respective languages. I still remember once Professor Satyen Bose, the scientist who modified Einstein's theory, I worked with him for 2 years very closely when he was the Vice Chancellor of Santiniketan and I was the head of the Department of Odia. At that time, he told me by way of conversation that if a Bengali physicist says that he cannot teach physics in Bengali, it's not because he doesn't know Bengali, it's because he doesn't know physics. That is what happens between language, subject and medium. If it is not the medium which is hindering factor, but in the subject itself. If you are not aware with the subject, then you cannot teach it in a language. But our intellectuals were averse to writing books in their languages. It's not because they didn't know their languages. It is because they didn't know the subject well enough to write it in their language. And those which were written never got into the curriculum of the universities. Therefore, if not even as a reference book, a most unfortunate part of it. There, some of the states still continue those institutions, but their work is meager. There's nobody to monitor, there's nobody to supervise. After I left CIL, I don't think anybody looked after all those aspects of our work. So, as I was telling, there are three things that we have to look into it. One is the methods of teaching. The second is the instructional materials for teaching. These are the two things which are most important. Now what is happening, even in our elementary stage, for teaching English, we are getting foreign experts to advise us. We have no experts in our country to advise us about our teaching of English. Not only that, there are no instructional materials in any of the languages which is worth reporting, or which are of international standard, which can be compared to international standard. Forget about the international standard. Even about the national standard, we do not have enough things to compare. Therefore, CIL has the great responsibility of looking after all these things. Material production and the methodology, development of methodology. You see, the methods were monolingual methods in the West. Their teachers are all trained in that method. If they have come to bilingualism or multilingualism, the West accepted bilingualism in 1961 and multilingualism they accepted in 2010. As late as that, they accepted multiculturalism before that, but not multilingualism. Therefore, and it is all due to my research, and I got a whole bunch of European scholars and American scholars to work with me, so that we created this situation where I still remember Lambert, the doyen of bilingualism in the West. He once told me, he said, Patnaik, we were teaching in the classroom only the white middle class children. It's only when we came in contact with the black and the brown children that we understood the vitality of bilingualism. This is 1961. And in 2010, I don't have to say, because by that time, many scholars have started writing about multilingualism. But even then, the whole question is that we must develop our own methods and our own materials, which we have not been able to do so far. Now I must tell a few things about development, because in the context of development, we look at the language policy. The word development is complex, ambiguous, and contested. The word development itself, somebody should write a history of development. There have been many books written now. They are coming out slowly. One book is a development dictionary, but where 27 writers have contributed. But the word development itself is a contested word. And we just accept it and run after the terminology given to us by the West. We do not think of in our own terms. The word development is a complex, ambiguous, and contested one. Local to global development, individual to community development are processes where every step is contested. Whether it's a local development or community development or national development or international development, they are all contested ones. If ability to make choices is one of the measuring rods of educational development, then the ruling elite who control resources, authority and power interpret it as their ability to make choices about others. If we are teaching to our children that educational development means ability to make choices, then it is taken over by the ruling elite who control three things: resources, authority, as well as power. They take it to themselves. They say, we are to make choices and you are to follow. They are the educated and others need to be educated by them. They are the policy and planning makers. We don't have anything to say about policy and planning. Whereas the CIL helped in making policy and planning. It helped the central government in making the policy and planning by linking them with the requirements of the states. From Kothari Commission, 1978, to the Kasturirangan Commission, 2020, all the reports have mentioned 6% of the GDP to be spent for education. No government so far has gone beyond 4%. You see, we talk about reviewing, about interpreting, about changing, about bringing about miraculous changes in the field of education, but we have no money. We have no funds allocated for it. Kothari Commission had recommended a common school system, which was never implemented. And now the schools are divided into private schools, public schools, and board schools, CBSE, ICSE, like that. They're the third category of schools. Therefore, when we talk about language use in education, we must understand what education itself is. Without understanding education, how can you talk about language planning or implementing language programs? Whether it is a 3-language formula, a 2-language formula, a 1-language formula, or a 5-language formula. One has to understand the nature and character of education in order to understand how to integrate all of these different ideas and subject a way to the government of India. And as a result, what is happening now? Now we are proceeding towards privatization, commercialization, and Englishization. These three things, the education system is moving towards these three things. These three things are interconnected. Because if you do not understand these things, then you cannot understand language in education. All are unanimous that mother tongue should be the medium of instruction at the primary stage. Although 2% of the Indian population have English as their mother tongue, still English is being promoted as the medium from the lowest to the highest levels of education. The NEP 2020 considers mother language, home language, local language, and regional language as mutually replaceable terms and suggest that they should be used whenever possible. So, who will decide when it is possible? The CIL has a great responsibility of bringing together all the opinions of the country and suggesting ways and means to the government of India. The government of India, from its own, should also depend on the CIL, should build up CIL as an institution which can give them this advice. We must have people who could give him some advice. Our unfortunate thing in India now has been that there is no teamwork. Everybody is a team leader without a team. So everybody wants to be the team leader. It is I who matter, not anybody else. It is without Indian culture has been the search of one in many and many in one. That is whether it is Dvaita or Dvaita, Visishta Dvaita or Siddha Veda Veda. All schools of philosophy have gone after this, looking for one in many and many in one. But we have forgotten that. We have forgotten our tradition. Therefore, we are following the West. We have become followers. We don't want to accept them as leaders, but yet we are followers. So that is how what is happening in the country is the most unfortunate part of it. The last point I would like to make is that development has always been a statistical construct. Always. Whether it is GDP, the magic word, it is through this that you compare nations of the state. The economic statistics is what determines what is development, what is not development. Whether it is ranking nations of the world as developed and developing, or as rich and poor, as developed or underdeveloped, or ranking the universities. The magic high number arising out of comparison determine institutional superiority. That this comes in the first 10 of the 200 international universities. So we are running after achieving that magic number of 10 so that we can be in the group of international universities or institutions. We do not go by the outcome, we go by the output. The output determines so much money is invested, so is the result. But what is the outcome of that? Nobody looks into that. Only language can determine that outcome. Therefore, I think that it's very important we understand the role of language in education and in educational development. Then only, I think, we will be able to contribute something for the development of the country and for the benefit of all, not benefit of us, because benefit of us is also connected with benefit of all. But although CIL was a department, was a subordinate office of the Ministry of Education, still I got UGC salary for the CIL employees, particularly academic employees, by changing the designation, Deputy Director cum Professor, Research Officer cum Leader, Junior Research Officer cum Lecturer. And I could have done the same thing for the research assistants, but there are some problems and I don't want to go into it now. but we got even this much was big enough at that time in the government of India that the government department should get the salary of the UGC. But that's the only way we could influence the UGC to undertake programs which the government wanted. We initiated the summer schools and winter schools. We selected the universities where the schools should take place and then had this thing done. We had to create linguists, but there are not enough linguists. Now, if you look at Odisha, there is no linguist because those who are there, they have out of the state. And similar is the case in many of the states. Therefore, we have to prepare linguists all over the country. This is very important, and CIL has a major role in looking after these things. And that we worked with the state, got recognition from the states, was great, because it is not a personal recognition that I got. It is the CIL which got the recognition. We got the state recognition from Himachal Pradesh. I got the recognition as the first Karnataka among the 16 Karnatakas who were selected during the 8th Kalamela, organized by the center and the state together. This Bhupen Hazarika, who got the Bharat Ratna, he and I were felicitated at the same day at the same meeting of the Assam Sahitya Sabha. So these are recognitions which are great. These are not individual recognition. These are institutional recognition. But if we run after individual recognition and not institutional recognition, that we won't get anywhere. Now that is what is happening in India. Therefore, my request to everybody in the CIL and in the government of India that help us working together. Help us to work together to find solutions to problems before us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Patnaik, for delivering the talk on this important day. National Education Day is celebrated in recognition of the services contributed by Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, and in recognition to his services as a freedom fighter and first education minister, the government of India decided in the year 2008 to celebrate November 11 as National Education Day. And since that year, it has been celebrated with a lot of fervor, and various programs take place around the country. And this year it was decided by our director to organize an online meeting, online lecture. And I thank you for agreeing to deliver the lecture. I also thank various other scholars who joined us from different parts of the country. In particular, Professor K.V. Subba Rao, Professor G. Uma Maheshwar Rao, Professor Usha Devi. All of you have made this lecture very, very important by joining from different locations. And I am happy that Professor Patnaik took us through a chronological development of the style and emphasized in his lecture the importance of language in education and development. I'm sure our audience and viewers will have some questions. If possible, please use the chat box or unmute yourself and ask questions one by one so that the flow of interactions is uninterrupted. We can take a couple of questions.
Can I ask a question? This is Ajit Das from Odisha.
Yes, please.
Actually, I want to ask regarding language landscape baseline study. CIL had a conference on 2001 on language landscape conference, but there is no baseline study on language landscape in Odisha, and other might be there, I don't know, but in Odisha there is no language landscape, means the study of multilingualism used. So what is CIL effort, any CIL should take initiative, I think.
Yeah, thank you for that. But please restrict your questions to the topic and also directly to Professor Patnaik. Like whatever you said, what CIL should do for landscaping in Odisha, we will discuss it later. But we will do it. Whatever is best, we will take it up. But since we have one of our eminent linguists with us, and also, incidentally, he's the son of a freedom fighter too. I don't think many of you know his father was a freedom fighter. I just remembered that. I thought I must share that. So please direct your questions to Professor Patnaik, and CIL can take up questions later in a different meeting or whatever.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you.
Hello, Professor Patnaik. May I ask you a question?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It's a wonderful lecture. It throws light on how actually mother tongue studies have taken roots, particularly through your services in the CIL, the dramatic development of mother tongue teaching through regional languages. It's a wonderful exercise that you have done, and then you have established on the four corners of India these institutes. And now you have made a very good statement that our intellectuals have failed to write and contribute the knowledge that they have acquired into their mother tongues. Yes, this is a good observation. And these intellectuals must know probably logical reasoning why they should write in their mother tongue. So one of the things, recent findouts indicate that Indian languages contribute to the GDP of India in a larger way. I think most of our intellectuals fails to understand this particular point. About 85% of our GDP is executed and contributed through the mother tongues of India, not through English. This they must note, and they must probably come back to mother tongues, either through writing or through teaching. Yes, sir. I think you must probably focus on these things next time onwards, actually. I very much appreciate your the way you have observed certain points and then brought out to our notice. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
May I now, Professor Patnaik, would you like to respond to the question?
No. There is nothing to respond because we'll discuss these things. These require greater discussion and elucidation. We'll take it up later because there is no doubt that mother tongue, when we say mother tongue, we should also understand what mother tongue is. Because mother tongue itself means the language I speak at home, which I learned from my mother. But you see, in the Indian census, it is said that if the child's mother is dead, then write the father's name. The father's name, father's language may be different from the mother's. Because these days, when there are mixed marriages, the father's language and the mother's language are different that they speak at home. My student Vijay Prasad Mahapatra, who was a linguist, he married a Tamil girl. And they spoke among themselves in English. Therefore, the three languages became their mother tongue. Because the mother spoke to the children in Tamil, the father spoke in English, in Odia, and they spoke in English. Then they were working in Bengal, they were in Calcutta. So Bengali came, as soon as you open the doors and windows, Bengali comes in. And they had an ayah who was the Hindustani speaking and a security man who was a Gurkha. So the children grew up with 6 languages right from the day one. Therefore, when I was invited to Sambalpur, which is the hub of Kosali movement in Odisha, and they want Kosali to be recognized, put in the 8th schedule. I have always argued for the last 50 years that the 8th schedule is a schedule to break the country rather than bring them together. That is, the 8th schedule should be abolished and a list of Indian languages should be put instead. But now, for several reasons, this has been kept. And as soon as you put one language in the 8th schedule, it becomes separate. It becomes different. As I gave the example of Maithili. As soon as Maithili was taken out of Hindi, there was a movement for making Angika and Bajika and they should be recognized as separate language. So like this, if you write books, you should write books in the accepted standard of that language. Now, standards have also changed. I have seen Marathi standard changing from Pune Marathi to Bombay Marathi. I have seen the Tamil changing from Brahmin Tamil to non-Brahmin Tamil. So these have changed. But nevertheless, there is always a standard acceptable to the people, and write in that standard which you teach to the children. And you can express yourself better and explain it better if you write to the mother tongue. Therefore, there is a lot to be discussed about this. I think we should think about it a lot more.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much clarifications and response to the observations. I request Professor Venkatesha Murthy, Director CRS, reflect and to address all the persons present here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tariq. Sir, it was a wonderful lecture by you on the role of language in education. We enjoyed listening to you. In fact, you took us to the days of J.P. Nayak when you said RLCs were the brainchild of J.P. Nayak, of the Government of India in education, who was the Joint Education Advisor and who was a magic man in the ministry those days, J.P. Nayak. The RLCs, I mean, this is for the information of everyone. I mean, everyone knows perhaps that now we are in a golden jubilee, situation now. 50 years we are completing now, and we have to celebrate our RLCs, Regional Language Centers, which you so very beautifully started long back, sir. Now, this is the time for us to reflect upon what should actually happen to our RLCs and what kind of a rejuvenation has to take place. We have been discussing these issues. Now, the NEP 2020 has also now talked about certain concerns, languages, and also bringing the takeaways of the classical language concerns to the fora of our children at the school level. How do we bring in the takeaways of the classical languages for the benefit of the school children? Now we have a responsibility to work towards understanding what should we do at the CIIL. Government of India is also talking about what the position that they have to take about these languages in terms of the implementation of the NEP 2020. NCERT is in the process of finalizing its discussion documents. 27 discussion documents are ready, which eventually will become 27 position papers, as I understand. From these position papers, NCERT will come out with the National Curriculum Framework from the curriculum framework, the curriculum, and then the text materials. Now we are in a very crucial phase where we need to talk about the position that we have to take and the kind of responsibilities that we have in CIAL about transferring the aspirations of NEP into the realities and then making it available to the school education. It's a wonderful chance for us. The paradoxical situation is the depleting strength at the CIAL. Perhaps when you initiated and when it was in the zenith of its glory, there were about 110, 120 people working in CIAL, the linguists, the very well-known people. But then today, the condition is we have a very, very handful number of people, those who are doing multitasking. Now, this is another situation. On the one hand, we have a lot of things to do in the institute. Second hand, on the other side, we don't have the hands to support us. Now, this is a challenge before us. Rejuvenation of these RLCs, as you said, is a very important challenge before us. Now, as I said, we are working towards evolving our own strategies of working towards giving our own inputs, taking a position on language issues for the NEP implementation. And we also want to work closely with the NCERT, Government of India, on issues related to implementation, NEP 2020 implementation. We are still in the initial phase of our discussions. As things shape up, we will be able to share our concerns. Maybe we would be beseeching cooperation from all the well-meaning people in the country in different manner, and then we will share what we are thinking on these lines and how we can meaningfully make ourselves relevant for the implementation of NEP 2020. The classical language centers that we have, like the Kannada, which is functioning, the Telugu, which is functioning, the Oriya, which has to take off, and the Malayalam also has to take off. Tamil has got its own, autonomous status, as we all know. But Kannada and Telugu, they have started functioning with some limited people. But then now we have to see how all these classical languages have to be taken on board for its relevance for the school education and in the NEP aspirations. So we are working on all these things. We only hope that in the future days, we should be able to have our own concrete inputs for the implementation level of the NEP 2020. So in another 6 months to 8 months, I think we have a lot of work to do. At the same time, RLCs in its golden jubilee period is another concern. Now, how we have to now move further. This is yet another very interesting discussion that we have initiated in CIIL. Let us see that we should be able to, make meaningful positions here, and then we should be able to proceed further. I look forward to having the cooperation from all of you in different forms. And Professor Patnaik, sir, it has been wonderful having you here. It would be nice to have many more inputs from you for many of our programs and activities. And I thank all of you for having taken your time and attended to this wonderful talk by Professor Patnaik. We are indeed thankful to all of you. And my colleague, Dr. Tariq Khan, will do the vote of thanks now. Thank you very much. I think I'm done. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so sorry to intervene. Looks like there are a couple of questions in the chat box. And maybe if there are any more questions, because in the chat box, I see there are 2 questions for.
I read out the questions. There is a question from Matthew. Home language, mother language, local language identification needs a national level survey on mission mode like Aadhaar card entry done by the Government of India. Would textbook in a standard manner. I mean, these are some observations, not questions exactly. Chaya has asked a question. What do you have to say about imposing a medium of instruction in schools?
Professor Patnaik may like to answer these questions.
Tariq, repeat that question slowly. He can hear it.
I'll read out the question from Chaya once again. Keeping the multilingual character of our country in mind, what do you have to say about imposing a medium of instruction in schools?
There have been many things written about multilingualism in India. Particularly, we had initiated a multilingual research center at the JNU some 15-20 years back. And since then, a lot of things have been done, and Professor Ajit Mohanty has written books, and Professor Mahendra Mishra has also written books on multilingual education in Odisha and India. That itself is the subject matter of a discussion. It cannot be just said in 5 lines or 10 lines or 5 minutes. So that it could link the home language with the immediate community language, the community language with the language of the area, the language different international languages. Now the question arises whether so many languages can be taught to a child. So many languages are not taught. Languages are taught through which subjects are also taught. Therefore, these things have to be discussed, determined. About 15 languages had been taken up. So we started creating some material. I don't know what is the present status of those materials, but we had started some work. A lot of work needs to be done in that area.
So thank you for reflecting upon the questions and observations made by the participants. And I am very happy that we have been able to celebrate the National Education Day in a befitting manner with your lecture, which was very, very informative. And I should like to begin the word of thanks by first thanking you for agreeing at a very short notice. I'm thankful to Professor D.P. Patnaik for agreeing at a very short notice and delivering the perspective of role of language in education and development, and has taken us through various landmark developments that took place at CIL in contributing to the development of the country. I also take pleasure in thanking Professor Venkatesha Murthy, who insisted that even though the information reached us late, we should not be late in organizing this talk, and we should proceed with, we should actually definitely organize this program, even though there was short time left before us. And he took personal interest in successful completion of this lecture. I also thank Professor Umarani for introducing our guest and providing a very detailed list of contributions that Professor Patnaik has done. This is very, very inspiring. I also take pleasure in thanking various other colleagues from CIIL who have supported all activities that we have initiated recently, and they have also joined us today to ensure that this program reaches all the concerned and it is a success in true sense of the word. I am also happy to thank our colleagues from various units, schemes, and projects who joined us despite their busy schedule They are all time pressed to meet the deadlines for various tasks, but they have taken out time to celebrate this day and listen to our invited speaker. I am very happy to thank various experts, scholars, and freelance linguists, language enthusiasts who also joined us online from different parts of the country. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for joining this online lecture, and wish you, I hope that we'll see you again in our next initiative. Wish you all the best. Have a great day. Thank you. Goodbye.